And I don't believe in that. I believe we should all celebrate one another and what we do and make a bigger pie. And then everybody can have some pie. Welcome to Knitting My Shit Together, episode 8. Knitting My Shit Together is a knitting podcast where neurodivergence and yarn collide. My name is Farrah. You can find me on Ravelry as Knitting My Shit Together. I changed my username and I'll have a slide come up. I had to shorten it because you can't have that long of a name on Ravelry. And on Instagram, I'm Knitting My Shit Together, all spelled out. So yeah, I updated those so that it would be like one name across all the things, social media things, and not a million. Anyway, my podcast is about being a neurodivergent person in the fiber arts community, and we're going to talk a little bit later about what that means. So welcome. If this is your first time, I'm glad you're here. If you're a subscriber, a regular viewer, welcome back. And subscribe. If you're a regular viewer, like you've watched several episodes, please subscribe and like my videos because it helps get the word out more. And once I get to 100 subscribers, I'm going to do some kind of giveaway. And I'll think of something and show it within the next week. Yeah, on next week's episode. And I think when I get 100 subscribers, I can like change my URL, which is exciting. So yeah. Okay. That's that. That's where you can find me. So today I'm recording on Saturday, gonna put this out Sunday, Saturday the 8th, and today is Worldwide Knit in Public Day. Happy for that. I went and did something. Stephen B Studios, a lot of people know who Stephen B is, obviously. His yarn shop is 5 blocks away. I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And he hosted a Worldwide Knit in Public Day event at the Minneapolis Institute of Art, which is my favorite museum in town. And it was really fun. I went to that, met a new friend. Her name's Christy. And we were just having really funny conversation. She's neurodivergent as well. And we were joking about how it's funny how neurodivergent folks tend to find each other even unknowingly in a crowd and hit it off. And so that was really fun and it was a good time. Yeah. So I asked her if I could share that, by the way, and she said, yeah. So, thanks for joining me. Let's see, I don't have any finished objects this week. I'm gonna have a couple, I believe, next week. I think it goes in phases like that, where one week I'll have a couple, the next week none, because I'm working on stuff. And I'm podcasting weekly, which I want to do because I'm having fun and enjoying doing it. And I don't want to have this pressure of I cannot do a podcast unless I have something new to show. Like, I can completely do a podcast, and as long as I'm working on stuff, yeah. So, but I am wearing a finished object that I talked about last week. This is my Shaker Rag top by Amy Christophers. You can find her on Instagram at Savory Knitting. And have I worn this almost every single day since I finished knitting it? Yes, I have. I love it. And as soon as I finish some other summer tees and tops, I'll wear those. But this is awesome. And I think I'm going to do the Tanya, and I think I'll wear the Tanya the same way too. But like, this is awesome paired, as you can see, with a little sundress. It's a great, I love it. So I'm really happy with the top and how it came out. But I have plenty of works in progress or whips to share with you. So we'll just jump right in and get going on that. Okay. And I have a new segment I'm going to introduce this week too. That's going to be a regular segment. And we'll talk about that when I get to it. So, here we go. Whips. Okay. The first thing is my Maritimo sweater or top by Caitlin Hunter, Boyland Knitworks. I am knitting the body in Madeline Tosh Twist Light that was in my stash from like a year ago or something. It was a while. I don't know that I'll purchase Madeline Tosh again until I see, like, you know, they had some really regrettable statements, which came out after they were confronted with like naming a yarn. I can't, you know, yeah, I'm sure you heard about the controversy. I won't go into all the details here, but, you know, if I see that they eventually kind of apologized, and if I see like consistent change over time, I'll get more of their yarn, but this was in my stash. And so, yeah, this is my Maritimo. So I just divided for the back and front because it's knit from the bottom up. And it's hard because it's not blocked right now, but you can see the cream. The lace is this, it's by CC Watt Collection. It's in the mica colorway. And that is done. And then this blue kind of that borders the lace was a scrap yarn that I had that I think is either old Madeline Tosh or Malabrigo sock. I'm not sure which one, but yeah, I'm really, really happy for how this is coming out, and I'm alternating skeins. I was using the helical knitting method to do that so I don't have a line going up the side, and I like how it's coming out. It's really pretty. I'm really happy with it. I you know, I did my extensive swatching, and so I feel as though it's gonna fit like a dream. At least that seems. Once I divided the stitches for the back and front, I was able to see more because, you know, it was kind of all scrunched up on my circular needle. And then once I divided, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. So I am knitting this on my Licca needles, US 4, 3.5 millimeters. And let me look up my gauge for you of what I'm getting. I wrote down my gauge in my journal when I did my swatches. So I am getting, my blocked gauge was 5 stitches to the inch and 8 rows to the inch. And my unblocked was 5 stitches to the inch, 7 rows. And I'm getting that gauge. I think that was, yeah. And I'm making gauge because I measured, oh no, here it is. I redid it with a different size needle. Okay, so this is what the needles I'm using. I am getting blocked 6 stitches to the inch, 8 rows to the inch, and unblocked I was getting like 6 stitches to the inch about, and a little over 8. And so yeah, I'm getting gauge for my blocked row gauge, and I'm really happy with it. I think this should be done by next week's show because, you know, I just divided for the back and front. It feels so good to be knitting on half the amount of stitches. Just when, you know, sometimes when you're doing the body of a sweater, it's a bit of a slog no matter what size it is. And I believe I am knitting, this is what I was going to look up for you and I didn't. So I cast on a medium to get the size small, and I think I'm getting it. And, you know, we'll see, we'll block it. And I'm excited. I wanted to have positive ease, of course. It's meant to be worn, but I think I just didn't want as much as it said. So I can't remember how much I plan to have, but yeah. So this is my Maritimo. I love it. I like how the colors are coming out. And it's exciting. So that is that. Let's see, what else do I have other than like balls of yarn falling out. I guess I shouldn't probably stare at the floor during this, but yeah, I have loose yarn that I'm trying to herd. Okay. Oh, and there's more. Okay, that's that. I'm also working on my Hermiones Everyday Socks, knit in Forest Fiber Arts 4-ply sock. And this was the May color of the month called May Flowers. And I've made some good progress. Sock 1 is done. I put in the heel today, and the heel, I picked up heel yarn from Stephen B Studios, and this is, I have the tag for it right here. So Stephen B will collaborate with yarn dyers, and it has a brand called Binge Knit. So this was done with him and 3 Irish girls. And this is the Adorn Luxe base, 85% merino, 15% nylon, fingering weight, 430 yards per probably 100 gram skein, I'm guessing this is. And the colorway is called Because I Have a Gun. And it's just this light gray. And you know, the Sock of the Month Club comes with coordinating minis, but I used the mini that goes with this color for another project that I'm about to show you. And so I thought, well, I'm going to get, you know, a contrasting color to do my heel with. And I just decided to get a full skein of gray. I looked at minis, but I was like, if I just get a big skein of gray, I can do plenty of heels and toes for all my socks coming up. Because, you know, like I got the mustache yarn, I have more striping yarn I'm going to show you in acquisitions. And so this way I can knit up several pairs with gray toes and heels, and gray goes with everything. My second sock, I am like 1 inch away from where I'll put the heel in, mark the heel, and then I'll just keep knitting up. And I love how the Hermiones everyday socks are knitting up. Like this yarn and this pattern, it's so lovely. And so yeah, I'm doing it toe up. I just reversed the pattern so that I could knit it toe up, and I'm really enjoying them. My youngest child graduates from high school today. Yay! But the graduation ceremony, which this seems odd to me, is at 8 o'clock at night. From like 8 to 10 in the Minneapolis Convention Center, which is strange, but we're gonna bus down there together. So I am going to bring this, and I will hopefully make some serious progress in the graduation ceremony, because you know they go in alphabetical order, so while they're calling everybody else's name and we're doing all the things, I'll be able to get some good knitting done. So that is my sock. Okay, my third big thing I am working on is the Spring Cleaning Shawl by Stephen West. I am working on section 5, I believe, and it has 7 sections total. So, and of course I'm in the middle of a row. This is my section 7. This is done with Stitch Together Studios yarn. I ordered this as a choose your own adventure color for May, I believe. April or May it was. April or May's color. And you get to choose your own adventure. You pick like one of 2 paths and a sub path. And yeah, this is what I got. And I love it. And I like how it's knitting up in this. It's a lot of fun. I think I'm almost halfway through this section, probably more than half, because, you know, you're doing short rows, and so it's going to go up in a triangle. So it's getting smaller and smaller every row I knit. So yeah, I'm more than halfway done with section 5. And I don't know what I'm going to do for section 6 and 7. I haven't decided what yarn to use yet. I do have some yarn coming that's surprise yarn from another dyer, so we'll see what that is. And I have other ideas. And if it means I just wait a while, I'm not gonna rush it. I'm gonna wait until I know what I want to put with it and have fun. Because yeah, I feel like the colors I've chosen are different but tie together well, and I want the same to be true of this final section. I thought maybe some purple could be good, because I don't really have a lot of that in here, or some green I thought could be good, but we'll see. We'll see what, so I'm not rushing on this. You know, I'm working on it steadily, but not rushing, because I don't know what, so the 6th and 7th section, I'm going to use 1 color of yarn and just divide it in half, because it goes on either side. So I'm just not rushing, since I don't know what it's going to be. I'm putting my hand to other things like the socks and the Maritimo sweater or tee, because, you know, I know what those are going to be all the way. So yeah, this is, but I am plugging away at this just irregularly when I feel like it. And I don't feel pressured to like plow through it at all. Yeah, so I'm not. Okay. Crochet Land. I've made some progress. I'm making a scrap blanket, a giant granny square with my fingering weight scrap yarn. And I've added several yarns and rounds to this once I got my replacement hook in the mail. And this is where I'm at so far. Can you see me through? Ah. So it's probably a good 2x2 square at this point. And I'm gonna knit it good size. Like, I don't want just a lap blanket. It'll get pretty big. I'll just keep going until I feel like it's a good size and then stop. Yeah, but I'll work on this. Sometimes I'll do it a little bit before bed, just plug away and do a couple rounds of the crochet. So yeah, and then I have one last crochet project, and that's my granny stripes blanket, which I'm using scrap yarn. This is coming out twin size. That's how much I cast on for. And my initial chain was too tight. I've said this before, and so it's pulling in, but I'm just not stressing about it. These are scrap blankets, and yeah, I can always knit a border around it, and then I'll just know for next time I do one of these, like, okay, make sure your initial chain is loose and stretchy enough so that it doesn't do what it's doing, which is kind of like, you can see bowing in. But yeah, I have some red and navy, and these are just all scraps, and I'm not doing them in a particular order. Neither am I with the granny square. Like, I'm not planning ahead. I want them to look really funky and scrappy, just with all my colors. I don't want to have to buy yarn to do a scrap blanket. I want it to truly be a scrap blanket, and I'm okay with it looking funky. So yeah, that is that. And that is all my works in progress. I've kind of worked on everything a little bit here and there this week, so I was able to show you all of that. Yeah, so next week I should be done with those socks. I should be done with my Maritimo tee, and then I will be casting on Tanya by Caitlin Hunter with some Muse Fiber company yarn I have, and then I'm gonna do some striped socks for myself, and yeah, a whole bunch of things are in the knitting pipeline that I'm looking forward to doing. Yes, and there's this shawl that I'm really looking forward to do. And so the commitment I made for this shawl, I'm not even going to tell you what it is or show it to you until next week, but the commitment I've made is, since I don't know what I want the spring cleaning shawl to be, the last color to be, I have to finish section 5 before I can cast on the new shawl. And once I have section 5 done, and I'm just waiting to find the right yarn to finish it, then I can cast on the next shawl I'm gonna do. And it's an Amba O'Brien pattern. That's all I'm gonna say. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I like the yarns I've chosen, so that's that. Okay, now I wanted to do my new segment. The new segment I thought I would do is a pattern of the week each week. So let me just explain how I'm choosing these. You know, I wander Ravelry all the time. Every day I check like the top 20 patterns, I'll look at them. And sometimes just looking for other stuff, I come across patterns that really catch my eye, and I'm like, ooh, and I add it to my favorites. And this was one of those patterns that was in the top 20 a day or two ago. And I want to share it with all of you. It is a free pattern. And I'm not going to always choose free patterns, but this week happens to be. And I'm going to put a picture up here. These are the Yanagi socks by Meiko Hiko Saka. And Yanagi means willow in Japanese. And they come with both charted and written instructions according to the description. And I like how it's just very simple with like that one lace panel running up the side. I think it's really lovely. And what I appreciated was sometimes people will knit, especially in socks, but shawls too, will do some lace with like a speckly or variegated yarn. And that's too much for me visually. It's like you lose that lace work. But this pattern, and it might just be with the yarn Meiko chose for the picture, but it's speckled, but it's not too much. It's not over the top, and I'm not losing the lace pattern in there. And I am definitely knitting myself a pair of these with one of my sock yarns. I was thinking of maybe knitting it up in my Forest Fiber Arts Lake Life that I was gonna do with my dad's hat, but now, or my dad's socks for, but now I'm knitting him that hat with Brooklyn tweed. Talked about that last week. So yeah, I think I might knit these up with Lake Life because I think that color would look really good with these. And I'll put a picture of Lake Life right here and what that looks like. It's in my stash and I don't feel like standing up and going and getting it and having to duck off camera, because there's that one episode where I did that like 10 times and I'm trying to learn as I go. So I'll put a picture of Lake Life up, and I think I'm gonna knit these up and add them to my queue because I think I am gonna use that yarn for it. And then I've decided, and yeah. Okay. So that is the pattern of the week. And and Mako, you can follow them. They don't specify their pronouns anywhere, so I just use they, them when somebody doesn't distinguish. And I'll put the name up here, but on mako.hikosaka, you can follow them on Instagram. And yeah, and Ravelry as well. And I'll put links to the pattern in my show notes, which will be in the description bar down here. Yeah, check it out. It's a lovely free sock pattern. And so yeah, every week now I'm gonna have a pattern of the week that I talk about that has caught my eye and is something new to me that I've just seen that has caught my eye and I want to knit, and I decide to add it to my favorites. So yeah, hope you enjoy that. Okay. That is that segment, and now we are going to move on to our mental health moment. And the mental health moment I do every week, and it's a segment where I talk about just a different topic around neurodivergence and mental health, and it varies. This week's mental health moment was inspired by one of my subscribers. And so I want to give a shout out to my subscriber, Mandy Meow is her username on YouTube. And she posted a question and was like, I'm not sure what neuroatypical means. And it kind of struck me. I was like, good point. Like, I've just been using terms that I assume people know, but why would I assume that? Yeah, so I thought we'd do some definitions in today's episode and talk about what things mean. And so I'm going to read from a website, and I just started Googling and I found this one. It's Disabled World is the website, disabled-world.com. I'll put that up here, but also I'm going to put the link to this specific article with definitions in the show notes in the drop-down box below. Yeah, so let's start. Okay, neurodiversity. So according to this website, which I didn't know this, in the 1990s, Judy Singer, a sociologist who is on the autism spectrum herself, came up with a word to describe conditions like ADHD, autism, and dyslexia. This word was neurodiversity. Her hope and objective was to shift the focus of discourse about ways of thinking and learning away from the usual litany of deficits, disorders, and impairments. So neurodiversity, a person, you wouldn't call a person neurodiverse, and I might have misused this in earlier episodes. You would call a person with a mental illness or learning disability, or what you would call that person neurodivergent. So neurodiversity is more like a discourse or like school of thought, which the thinking behind it is that, and I can say this, so neurodiversity is an approach to learning and disability that argues diverse neurological conditions are a result of normal variations in the human genome. So it's just saying like, it tries to move ideas around disability and mental illness away from being pathologized and away from being sick to just an expression of the diversity in the human genome with our brains, is the philosophy behind neurodiversity. And I like that. I'm also okay if somebody calls themselves disabled or I'm a person with a mental illness. I don't think it's wrong to use those terms. We get to decide what we call ourselves. And again, I think it's kind of like the word fat, which I used last week when I talked with Mari. And there was a whole article I read about that, about using that word, which is, it's been stigmatized to be a negative thing, but it's not. It's not a negative thing. It's just an adjective to describe people. And like, I like that a lot of fat activists have kind of reclaimed that word as a place of empowerment and trying to destigmatize it. And for me, the same is true of mental illness and disability. So yeah, diversity is a way to talk about the full range of different types of brains. I also think it's completely okay to use disability and mental illness, personally. And I do when describing myself. But everybody has to decide what they want to use and own for themselves. Okay, so now we're going to go down neurodivergent. So having an atypical neurological configuration, for example, a person who has a developmental disorder and or a mental illness, is what neurodivergent is. The word neurodiverse refers to a group of people where some of the members of that group are neurodivergent. So I hope that breaks that down. So I would consider myself a neurodivergent person. So then we get to neurotypical. So the word neurotypical, or NT, it's sometimes abbreviated, is the opposite of neurodivergent. Neurotypical means being neurologically typical, within the typical or average range for human neurology. So it's the opposite of neurodivergent. And just like atypical is the opposite of typical, so like neuroatypical would be the opposite of neurotypical. So it's like neurodivergent and neuroatypical are synonymous for me, are synonyms for one another. Yeah. And just to talk about the neurodiversity movement, they talk about that. The neurodiversity movement is a social justice movement that seeks civil rights, equality, respect, and full societal inclusion for the neurodivergent. For example, the autism rights movement, or ARM, is a social movement within the neurodiversity movement that encourages autistic people, their caregivers, and society to adopt a position of neurodiversity, accepting autism as a variation in functioning rather than a mental disorder to be cured. And I do look at my mental illness and neurodivergence that way. Like, this is how my brain works, and it's not typical. And I have to adapt, and that's okay. Like, yeah. I do and don't. You know, some people talk about mental illness and neurodivergence like a gift. Like, oh, it's this positive thing, gift. And I've read this whole book on it. And like, are there pluses to being neurodivergent? Yeah, like, I'm really creative, and I don't think you have to be neurodivergent to be creative. I just think a lot of creative people are. But there's also a ton of negatives, like wanting to die, and occasionally when you have a depressive, I mean, yeah, I'm just saying there are negatives too. So keep that in mind. So I hope that helps, Mandy Meow. And now we all have like a common lexicon kind of to work from when I am sharing. So yeah. Okay. And that is my mental health moment for today. Let's talk about acquisitions. You know, if you don't want to watch acquisitions, I am going to do acquisitions and then just life in general news updates. So if that doesn't interest you, if you're just here for the knitting and mental health moment, that's cool. But I would encourage you to stay, because I like watching acquisitions, because for me, when I hear, even if it's not yarn I can get, if it's yarn or a product that like inspires another idea. I've gotten inspired by ideas from other knitters showing their acquisitions on their podcasts. And so, yeah, if you want to see, stick around. And that's why I share, as a source of inspiration and to support indie dyers, small businesses, local yarn shops, all of that. So that is why I feel it's important to do that and show that, because yeah, I want those businesses to thrive and grow and continue. And so that's why I share. Okay. So let's start. I already shared that I got that gray yarn for the heels. I only wound off like a small ball, like 25 grams or something, because I, want to leave the rest in a skein rather than wound. But here's the rest of it. And it's kind of all looking raggedy right now because I, had it on my Swift. So yeah, that's that. And this is the 3 Irish Girls and Stephen B collaboration. Called Adorn Luxe, and this is there because I have a gun colorway, and it's very soft, and I'm excited about all the heels I'm gonna make with this. So you'll remember last week I had ordered some mustache yarn because I want to do a whole bunch of stripy socks. And okay, I'm gonna say something about the socks. So I didn't really have a lot of hand knit socks that fit me well that I was wearing for myself. I normally give my socks away to knit them for other people. And I had some socks, like some Bombas socks and just, manufactured store-bought socks that I'd been using, but they wore through really quickly. And so last night I was like, I'm gonna look and see my sock situation. I had to get rid of so many pairs of socks that had holes. And so my goal is to just be knitting up a whole bunch of socks for myself this summer and others, and get at least 4 pairs of socks for myself by the time fall comes. When I have to start wearing wool socks. I live in Minnesota and I bike commute, and so wool socks are just not even optional. So to that end, I got some more self-striping yarn. This is from, I don't know how to say this. I even asked people at Worldwide Knit in Public Day and they weren't sure. This is from Quare Yarns. I don't know. And it's a self-striping. Look at this. It's so pretty. And that's how there's their label. And I'll obviously throw up a little box here. And this is, let's see, a self-striping yarn. It is 75 superwash merino, 25 nylon. There's 463 yards in 100 grams. And this is the Nice Shoelaces colorway. And I really liked it when I saw it on their site. And so I got a skein. And I'm excited to knit up a pair of socks for myself with this. What else? So it's Pride Month. Happy Pride, everybody. I wanted to buy something rainbowy. And so Muse Fiber Company, who I'm a fan of, down in Hastings, Minnesota. I'm knitting several things out of their yarn coming up, including my Tanya. Well, they put these out. And I bought one. It's a set of rainbow minis, and all of their rainbow sets like this with their minis, this is their Finch base, and it's a Finch braid number 20. This is 522 yards total. So this is a fingering weight single strand. So freaking soft. And so basically each of the minis is 87 yards or 20 grams, and there's 6 of them. And so 522 yards total. I love it. And I already know what I'm going to do with it. I found a project that I added to my queue last night. I'm going to do a shawl, and it's a different shawl, not the one I said earlier that I'm going to knit by Amba O'Brien. That's still, I'm keeping a surprise. This is another one by Amba O'Brien I'm going to knit. It's called the Celadon shawl, I believe, and I'm going to do it in charcoal gray and then these colors. And I'm really pumped. I can't wait. It's going to be so fun to knit. So yeah, I got this. Oh, and I wanted to make sure I said this. Muse Fiber, Sarah, who owns Muse Fiber, is donating 10% of the proceeds from these Finch braids. I don't know if it's just the rainbow ones, but I think most of the braids she made are rainbow colored. During Pride Month, 10% of the proceeds is going to the Bridge, which is a drop-in center or a place for homeless youth to go. And they do support LGBTQ youth in the area. So 10% goes to that. So exciting. Okay. Oh, one last thing. Well, two. We're not done yet. So Stephen B Studios is having a trunk show by a local hand dyer, and they put it on their Instagram, which I saw. And so today, after Worldwide Knitting Public Day, I stopped by the shop on my way home. I'm like, you know, I can just bike a couple blocks to the east and hit them up. And here is what I got. Isn't it pretty? So this is by Abacus Dyeworks, hand dyed in Winona, Minnesota. And yeah, this is called The Road Less Traveled is the colorway. And it is in their Bluff View sock base, which is such a great name. So Winona, Minnesota is on the Mississippi River. And there's all these bluffs. It's an area like tons of bald eagles nest there. It's beautiful. And this is their Bluff View sock base. It says raised, milled, and dyed in the USA. This is 90% superwash targi, which I've never knit with before, and 10% nylon. And Erin, who works at Stephen B Studios, was telling me, because I said, ooh, how's the yarn in the trunk show I saw on Instagram? And she said, you should really check out the targi. So I did, and picked out this. And I have a plan for it already. So I am going to use this, and I put this in my Instagram story today, knitting my shit together on Instagram, if you want to follow me. I'm going to have this in my Novelli tee. So let me show you what that's going to be. I'm doing that after the Tanya. I'm just going to do the whole Italy series by Caitlin Hunter this summer. So this is going to be my main color. And then the two contrasting colors will be this, which is, I believe, I lost the label, but I believe this is Sun Valley Fibers that I got years ago, like 8 or 9 years ago, maybe, that I haven't used and is in my stash. So it will be that, this, and this. And if you can see, like, I think they go really, really well together because there's a little bit of gold in this, but not a ton. And I think it'll be a really lovely blend. So, Abacus Dyeworks. Check them out. Okay. Finally, I got two things, a pin and a scissors. Where is my bag? Okay. So on my fringe supply bag, this is my pin I got, a little pride sheep. This is by Christopher Straub. And he makes these for Stephen B. I'll put his Instagram up here. You could probably get one at Stephen B's website. I'm sure you could order them online. But it's a little rainbow sheep enamel pin, and I love it. So I got that little sheepy pin for myself. And then I also needed a new pair of scissors. So these are Oxbow scissors, sharp blades named for my hometown, it says. It's www.kelmscottdesigns.com. And I got the red with little square handles, and they're teeny tiny, but I love them, and they're really sharp. And I've been using these quite a bit because I like having multiple scissors and tape measures and things sitting around. So yeah, that's that. And I wanted to just share one other thing, not a new, when I bought the Finch yarn from Muse, Sarah sends the most adorable things. So when I got my Finch braid, she sent me this pin, and look, yes, I made this. I love it. And I have it on my bulletin board. I'll probably attach it to something, you know, like a bag or something in the future, but for now it's just chilling on my bulletin board and I'll deal with it later. Okay. And then in a previous, when I got that matcha latte that I showed last week for my Tanya, look at what she sent me. How adorable is this? F for Farrah. And it just had a nice note on her from it, and it's a fluorine from the periodic table of elements, obviously. Or not obviously, I don't know, but very cute. So I have this hanging on my bulletin board as well. And that is my acquisitions. So if you stuck around, thank you. We're going to just move on to life in general before I wrap up today's episode. Not much is new. You know, today, Worldwide Knitting in Public Day, which I shared. My youngest is graduating high school. Yay! It will be exciting to see that. I'm happy for them. And so because that's happening, my oldest and middle daughters are here in town from Denver, and our middle daughter lives in the metro area, but she's crashing here overnight last night and hanging with us. And so to both of them, I was like, I need to outline your feet and get your measurements so that for socks and garments and all of that. So yeah, that was pretty funny. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else new. I was, talking about an idea last episode that I was gonna talk about now, but I'm not ready to yet. It's not ready yet, so I'm gonna wait, and I'm still making decisions about it. So you'll have to wait. It'll be in an upcoming episode, but not now. Trying to think if there's anything else new. I don't think there is, guys. Life has been pretty, I went to an outdoor concert this week in knit. I went to a play, getting out a little bit more each day, but definitely still needing my alone time to decompress. So I went to Worldwide Knit in Public Day, and then I know I have the graduation tonight and there's going to be a lot of people and all the things. And so I'm taking today just to chill. And so, wind down and have some alone quiet time before I go do all the things with all the people again. Yeah. And I think that's it. But thank you. Hey, you should like and subscribe and leave a comment if you want. That would be great. I'm having so much fun recording these. I really look forward to it each week. And I know I keep saying that and I sound shocked, and it's because I kind of am shocked. I'm slowly now changing and adding and growing things, like changing my usernames to be consistent. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I'm excited to see what it becomes and what happens. And I've thought about starting a Ravelry group. So I might do that this week so that we could do a knit along or something like that in the future. And I also, this is one thing I wanted to say too. So okay, little tangent here, but hear me out on this. I really want to get to 100 subscribers, which I said in the beginning. And I know I started this. I'm going to grab my Coke. I know when I started this, I was like, I don't care what it becomes, da 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 da. But now I'm having a lot of fun and taking a lot of pride in what I'm doing. And I want people to see it and watch and hear. So please share. And yeah, I think in the beginning I was having imposter syndrome, and I was like, will I really carry this out? Will I really keep doing this? And I was feeling insecure and having imposter syndrome. And so I wasn't really talking about it with people when I would meet them in real life, or mentioning it on social media when I was talking with people, because I felt like, I don't know, what right do I have to say and talk about all of this? But I'm enjoying it, and I'm kind of like, what right do I not have to talk about all of this? Why not? I'm enjoying it. I'm having fun. And I want neurodivergent folks to be seen and it to be talked about when they're in a place when they can. And I'm in a place where I can. And so I should do that. So yeah, I had never started a Ravelry group because I was like, it was the imposter syndrome thing where I was like, you know what? I'm not who am I to think that I could have a Ravelry group for my podcast? It's not big enough. I only have 30 something subscribers. But I guess maybe I've decided to start taking myself seriously because I've had so much fun with this and I want to keep doing it. And so I'd like to grow it. So please share away. Once the Ravelry group is up, I'll let you know, probably by next week, what it is and all of that. And I think one thing that I want to say is, so I used to be a yoga teacher. I did yoga teacher training. And I remember when we talked about in my training, the business side of yoga, one of my teachers, Carrie Quinn, said this, and it so resonated with me. And I've seen truths in this in every community I've ever been part of, which is, I feel like, and I see it in the knitting community, I feel like people compete and vie for what they perceive as a limited slice of a piece of pie. Like that we have this, finite pie and everybody's trying to get their slice. And I don't believe in that. I believe we should all celebrate one another and what we do and make a bigger pie. And then everybody can have some pie. Yeah, like my hope is that we can get more fiber people, get more knitters, get more crocheters, get more weavers, get more spinners, get more people involved in the fiber arts. And we know not everybody is, or else we wouldn't have to have like a worldwide knit in public day. Like you wouldn't get stared at when you knit in public if more people did it. So that means there's this whole population of people who could become future fiber artist people. So that's why I'm not shy to mention to celebrate like Mako and her Yanagi socks today, to talk about other podcasters like Mari and her Bad Betty Knits podcast, and to share it on my social media, on my podcast, because why would I not celebrate the beautiful things another person is doing? Like, why would I not celebrate that? I want to work with all of you to make a bigger pie. So yes, I'm going to take myself seriously now and not have imposter syndrome, and know that I have a right to do this and put my hand to it more diligently and take myself seriously, but still have fun, because if it's ever not fun, then I won't do it. But I can do that and still celebrate others and not compete for a slice of a finite pie, but help bake a bigger pie. Yeah, I don't think the two are mutually exclusive. And I think that's been part of my hesitancy too, along with imposter syndrome. So yeah, that's it. I think I'm done for this week. I don't know what I'm going to call this week's episode. Maybe I'll call it the unnamed. Maybe I'll call it a bigger pie. I think that's what I'm going to call it. Okay. So I'll see you next week. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you again. Bye.